Let's get started, and we're going to start talking right away about um, how you can improve your vocabulary for the IELTS exam. And I do want to let you know that the way that the things that I'm sharing with you today are the simplest and most stress-free, and actually the most natural way of increasing and improving your vocabulary, because it doesn't have to be a difficult thing. It doesn't have to be something where you're spending endless hours uh, trying to do the things that you think maybe you've been told before, or that other people have told you, or maybe even what you just thought for yourself uh, about learning vocabulary for the IELTS exam. So let me tell you, first of all, what it's not. Okay. First of all, when it comes to the IELTS exam, you don't need any special words. You don't need any fancy words. You don't need to memorize academic word lists. You don't need to spend hours doing that. That can be quite painful. It can seem quite difficult. And the thing about the IELTS exam, even though you're doing the version of the exam that's called the academic exam, it's not really academic. What's most important is that you know how to use the words that you use every day, and use them effectively, efficiently, and get the score you need with the vocabulary that you already do. So you're not going to be spending endless hours memorizing the dictionary or memorizing academic word lists. The method and the strategy that I'm going to share with you today will really take you a long way in not just having a lot of vocabulary, but really knowing how to use the vocabulary that you already possess. So let's talk a little bit more about how this works. What I want to tell you is, let's start by just talking a bit about your overall English language level. For the IELTS exam, there's no getting around it. You do have to have a high level of English. You have to have at least a B2 level or a C1 level of English. And so you need to take the time, and sometimes it takes months and years even to get at that level. But once you're at that level of English where you're ready for the IELTS exam, if you've already arrived at a B2 or a C1 level, you already have and already know a lot of vocabulary. You have thousands of words at your disposal. And the problem is not having enough words. It's knowing how to use the words that you already have and use them enough. So the way that I like to think about it is that we all have our own bag full of words. And again, we have thousands of words in this bag. And the problem is not having enough words. The problem is that sometimes there's words in that bag that we really don't bring out and use as often as we could. So the good news is that you have enough words. And if you start with the words that you already know and learn how to expand from there, again, it can be simple, it can be stress-free, and it doesn't require learning a whole bunch of new or special or fancy or academic words. That's the first key to the strategy that I'm going to share with you today, is you're starting with the words that you already know, and you're going to build from there. So here's the first thing, my first tip for getting started in improving your vocabulary. It's simply buying a notebook. Buy a notebook that's going to be your vocabulary notebook. And you can use it like a journal or a diary. And what you want to do is just develop a routine, a daily a daily routine, a weekly routine, or every couple of days. And you just want to start writing in that notebook on a regular basis. And all you're going to do is you're going to write your ideas, your thoughts, your feelings about whatever's on your mind when you sit down to write. You don't have to have any topics that you specifically have to work on. You don't have to have any academic topics. Um, they don't even have to be IELTS, specific IELTS topics. What you want to do is just develop the routine of expressing yourself in English. And one of the best ways that you can do this on your own is through writing. And as you write and as you share your own ideas and whatever's on your mind, whatever you're thinking or feeling, you'll start to use your vocabulary in different ways. You'll start to use words that you already know, but you'll start maybe pulling words out of that bag that you don't use every day. For example, maybe there's certain situations where you speak English all the time. Maybe if you have if you're taking a certain subject at school, or you're working every day in English, and you tend to only use the vocabulary that applies to that specific situation. So what you want to do with this notebook is just write about any new ideas or any new thoughts or feelings that come to mind, things that are not something you work at, or just the same vocabulary that's specific to a certain situation. So if you are sitting down to write one day and you're thinking about your family, then write some thoughts and feelings about your family. Maybe you have something that you're interested in, whether it's sports or music or another hobby. Well, just write your ideas and thoughts about that. So don't really go looking for specific IELTS topics or any other topics. Just write about whatever's on your mind, and you'll be surprised about the way that you start to express yourself. And I'll give you an example of why this is so important, even for preparing for the IELTS exam. So let's talk about the writing section for a moment and writing task 2. In writing task 2, you're given a topic, and then you're asked to write your opinion on that topic. Is it something you agree with or disagree? Is it a problem that you have to come up with a solution for? Well, again, even though it's called academic, one thing that you'll always see in the prompt or in the instructions for writing task 2 is when you're giving your opinion, to give an example about why you have that opinion. And the thing about an opinion is your idea. It's what you think about something. It's what you feel about something. So when you go to the writing task 2 of the IELTS exam, this is exactly what you're doing. You're sharing your ideas and your thoughts and your feelings. And so if you've been writing in a notebook on a regular basis and doing this, it will seem quite natural to do it when it comes to the to the IELTS exam. So again, this can be so stress-free. It can be a very natural thing. And this is one of the first ways to start building your vocabulary. If you don't want to go out and buy a notebook, then you can start a folder or a file on your computer or even on your phone and just start sharing and writing your ideas and thoughts and feelings every day. So that's my first tip. Just get started expressing yourself and using the vocabulary that you already have, talking about different topics, different situations, but the things that are happening in your life on a day-to-day basis. Let me just say hello to Faris from Morocco. Adil, I mean, it's really nice to have you here, and I'm glad you're sharing in this, and I'm really happy that you're benefiting from this, and it's my pleasure to share it with you. Okay, so that's my first tip. Buy a notebook and just begin expressing yourself on a regular and daily basis. Now, tip number 2 is to take these words that you already know and try to use them in a different way. In other words, we're talking about synonyms. So instead of trying to learn brand new words, just take the words that you already know and learn to use them in a new way. For example, you can see on the slide here, the word limitless. It's an adjective. It can be another word for limitless is boundless, immeasurable, infinite, or endless. So what you're doing is if you take words that you already know, let's say you find yourself using the same word over and over again. Well, don't try to learn a new word. Just try to learn a word that can be used in place of that one or along with that one. So just look in a thesaurus or on the website, and I'm going to give you a really good resource here in a few minutes for doing this, and just learn a couple of words that mean the same thing. And when you look at, for example, like on the slide here, when you look at a list of synonyms, you're probably already going to recognize and already know and maybe even use one of the words that's on that list. So when you're looking at synonyms and you find a list of synonyms, don't choose ones that are brand new to you. Choose a synonym that you already know. And that way you'll be able to start using it sooner and using it more often. So then, if you find when you're writing in your notebook every day that you seem to use one or two words over and over again, maybe too frequently, mark those words and learn synonyms for those words, the words that you seem to use over and over again. And maybe just try as you write in your journal or your notebook in the next couple of days, just to try and use these new words. But they're not brand new. They're words that you recognize, that you know, but maybe you're just identifying that you can use these words in this situation too. Well, I hope that makes sense. So just start writing every day, expressing yourself, and then look for words that you seem to use very often or more frequently than you would like, and just learn a couple of words that mean the same thing as those words that you already know. Okay, so before we go to tip number 3, let's just say hello to Amar from Baghdad. It's good to have you here today as well. Okay, so those are my first two tips. Get yourself a notebook. Just start writing, just start expressing your ideas and your thoughts and your opinions about things. And that'll go a long way to getting you feeling more confident and comfortable as you prepare for the IELTS exam. And then take the words that you already know. And if you just learn two words that mean the same thing, two synonyms, as one word that you already know, then you've just tripled your vocabulary. You've expanded your vocabulary. So now let me tell you my third way that you can really expand your vocabulary, but again, with words that you already know. And this is using word forms. Okay. So as you're expanding your vocabulary, there are words that you already know. So you don't even have to change the word. It's not like a synonym this time. You're not even changing the word. You're just learning to use it in a different form. And this is kind of where a little bit of grammar comes in to developing your vocabulary. And if you're a part of the Facebook group, as much as I can, every Wednesday, I make a post about word forms. And I try to challenge you to take a word and use it and make sentences using the different forms. So if you see, this is an example of a post that I put in the Facebook group a little while ago. Environment is a common topic in the IELTS exam. So if you know the word environment, you know that it's a noun. Environmental is an adjective. Environmentally is an adverb. So it's the same word. You're just learning to use it in three different forms. And if you can do that, again, you've just tripled your vocabulary just by learning to use the same word as a noun, a verb, and an adjective or an adverb. So it's quite simple. And again, you're not studying the dictionary. You're not memorizing academic word lists. You're just taking the words you already know and learning to use them in a different way and expand your vocabulary. You know, you don't need to know 20,000 words or 15,000 words to be successful on the IELTS exam. You just need to, again, reach into your own bag of words, the words that you've already learned, and use them effectively. Okay, the third way that you can learn new words and expand your vocabulary. Before we go further, here's just an example of how different word forms work. These two sentences basically mean the same thing. The first one says, we must act to protect the environment. So what I've done is I've just taken that word environment, which is a noun, and I've made another sentence, but this time I'm using it as an adverb. We have to take action to be environmentally responsible. And a matter of fact, I took the word must and I used a synonym for must and changed it to have to. And I've taken the verb act and I've just changed it in a different way too. Take action. So you can see how I've been able to express myself in two almost completely different ways with different words, different word forms, but say the same thing. And this is possible for you. So again, it's just taking the words that you already know, expanding them, learning to use them in different ways. And the third thing that you can do when it comes to learning new words is paraphrasing. And in the future, I'm going to do a whole lesson just on paraphrasing and sentence structure for writing. But just let me give you a little idea how this works here. And this is a very simple way to paraphrase. So if you look on the slide and you see the original version, we have two sentences. Mr. Smith was famous for his delicious candy. Children and adults love to eat it. So the first part of paraphrasing is just changing the words and using some synonyms. For example, instead of famous, we say known throughout the world. Instead of saying children and adults, we change it to people. We change the grammar form a bit, the form of the word. We take loved to eat it and just changed it to enjoyed eating. Okay. So this is, I know this is just a very quick introduction to paraphrasing, and I promise I will do a more in-depth lesson on it in the future. If you're interested, just let me know in the comments, and that'll encourage me even more to prepare that lesson for you. But this is, so these three, using the words you already know in different ways just involves these three things: synonyms, word forms, and paraphrasing. So I hope this is helpful so far. So my first tip, number one, get a notebook and just start expressing your ideas and your thoughts and your opinions about anything on a daily basis. And then start looking at what you're writing. And if you see that you're using words, the same word over and over again, learn to use that word that you already know in a different way by synonyms or word forms, and learning to paraphrase. And now, just my final tip for this is when you want to add new words, only add 2 or 3 words each week. And the way that you add these words is, again, not by looking at an academic word list and picking words out. It's not by memorizing the dictionary and studying the dictionary. It's through what I call immersion. It happens quite naturally. As you go through your week and you're in situations where you're hearing English or using English, you might hear one or two new words, maybe from watching TV or reading something on the internet. And when you see a word that it's not a completely strange word, but it's a new word for you, write it down and just focus on maybe adding that to your bag of words. But make it a very natural process. Again, don't go intentionally trying to learn academic words from a list or digging through the dictionary. If you just naturally, whether it's in a coffee shop or on TV or speaking with friends, if you hear a new word, just write it in your notebook and try to use it maybe in the coming week when you're just writing your thoughts and your feelings and expressing yourself. But don't go overboard, okay? Don't stress yourself out thinking you have to learn too many new words. Just add maybe 2, at the most 3 words a week, and just try to bring these in. But again, you're only going to find yourself frustrated, maybe stressed out, if you take an academic word list and say, I'm going to learn 10 new words from this list. I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm just saying that you may learn some new words, but you may not learn the context and the right way and the right place to use them. If you just add words that you hear through immersion and just naturally by doing the things that you do to improve your English, then those words you'll be able to use them more effectively. You'll have more confidence with them. You'll be more comfortable with them. Again, you don't have to learn hundreds of new words for the IELTS exam. Okay, you just have to learn 2 or 3 new words each week. And as you prepare, you'll find it comes quite naturally. You know, you don't want learning English to be stressful. You don't want it to be something that you feel that, of course, you have to put in effort and you do have to put in the work to improve your English, but you may as well try to keep it as simple as possible. So let me just show you a comment that just came up from Adil. My problem is that I can't remember all new words. Now this, Adil, that is a real problem. And the problem is when this is a bigger problem if you try to learn too many words at once. And this is why I recommend just adding 2 or 3 words each week, and the words that come naturally. If you're taking English lessons or if you're working to improve your English, when new words come up in these lessons or in the things that you're doing to improve, still try to limit yourself to only learning 2 or 3 words each week or every few days. And once you've added 2 or 3 new words, don't add any more new ones until you learn how to use those ones effectively. And again, if you learn the principles of paraphrasing and synonyms and word forms, that will expand your vocabulary the fastest. Like I said, if you learn how to use the same word as a noun, a verb, and an adjective, maybe you only used it as a noun up until you decided to do this. So if you've only been using the word environment as a noun, well, don't learn a new word. Just expand your vocabulary by learning to use that in 3 different ways. Then it's not like learning a new word. It's a word you're already familiar with. So I guess overall, the theme of this lesson today is just try to keep your English language development, your vocabulary development, as natural and stress-free and simple as possible. The IELTS exam is not easy. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying that it doesn't require practice and study and putting in the effort. But with all that you're doing, try to keep building your vocabulary as naturally as possible. You see, you have so many things that are going on in your life. If you're studying full-time or you're working full-time, if you have a family, if you're in a relationship, you need to keep things in balance. And so the best way to keep things in balance is to break down the big things into little things. So when I say write in a notebook every day, you'll be surprised at the difference just 10 or 15 minutes a day can make. And you don't have to study before you write. You don't have to analyze what you're writing. You're just sharing you're expressing your feelings and your thoughts and your ideas. And then another day, you just spend maybe 10 or 15 minutes looking for synonyms or practicing different word forms and paraphrasing. And then on another day, Maybe you just add 2 or 3 words into your bag of vocabulary and start learning how to use those words. And just a few minutes a day can make a big difference in preparing for the IELTS exam. And this is a message that I give over and over again. A lot of times somebody will come to me and they've booked their exam and they haven't really thought about what it takes to prepare for the exam. And they'll say to me, Jeff, I have my exam in 3 days. What can I do to prepare? And I sometimes the only answer I have for that is maybe you should start praying, because in 3 days, you're not going to change anything that's going to help you with the IELTS exam. And some people will tell you that they've only prepared for a week or 2 weeks, but that's because their English was already at a very, very high level. What I really encourage you to do is to have an honest evaluation of where you are with your English language ability, with your vocabulary, with your grammar, and have an honest estimate of how long it's going to take you to prepare for the IELTS exam. And do not book your test before you're ready. And I'm not saying that to discourage you. I'm not saying that to disappoint you in any way. But even though the exam is difficult, your preparation doesn't have to be stressful. It can still be simple. And what I'm sharing with you today is a strategy that will just help you improve your vocabulary as part of your preparation for the IELTS exam and part of your overall English language improvement. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me. You can reach out to me through email. You can leave your even if you're watching this on the replay, leave your comments. If you're interested in how you can assess your level of English and know the weaknesses and the areas you work on, I have a very good way of helping you with that. I do have an English language assessment available. If you're interested in that, just drop me a message, send me an email, or just mention it in the comments, and we'll find a way to connect, and I'll share with you how you can have that English language assessment. I just want to finish up with a couple of things. One of the best resources, and I know it looks a little funny, it's a funny name for this website, it's called WordHippo, wordhippo.com. I would really encourage you to check out this website. I think it's my top resource for improving your vocabulary. You can take any word. For example, a word that you already know, but you want to find a couple of synonyms for it, go to WordHippo, put the word in the search bar and hit synonym, and you'll find dozens of synonyms for that word. Or you can put the word in the search bar and hit the word forms tab, and it will show you how to use that word as a noun, an adjective, an adverb, or a verb. So it will show you the word forms. And if you put that word in the tab and you hit sentences or definitions, it will give you examples of sentences with that word. So and I'm not saying spend hours on this website, just a few minutes a day will make a big difference in improving your English. And just before we finish up today, remember, if you have any questions, put them in the comments. Before we finish out, if you're watching this on the replay or on YouTube, you can I can answer your questions just by placing them in the comments. What I've talked to you about today is using a notebook and writing in the notebook and expanding your vocabulary that way. Well, let me just give you one other way that you can also do this. All you have to do is do the same thing, but do it with speaking. Now you might say, well, I'm on my own, I don't have a partner. Here's what you can do to improve your speaking and and improve your vocabulary at the same time. Maybe one day you can spend 5 or 10 minutes expressing your feelings in your notebook by writing. But maybe on another day, you can just take your phone and you can record yourself speaking, record yourself sharing your ideas, your thoughts and opinions, or make a video of yourself. And so you can use a notebook and write every day, or you can have like an audio or video journal that you can make. So you can start practicing and using the vocabulary that you already know, writing and speaking. So I just want to encourage you to remember, it only takes a few minutes a day. Start with the words that you already know. Keep a notebook. Try using the words that you already know with synonyms or word forms, and try some paraphrasing, and do it naturally. When you decide to add new words, do words that you've heard in the course of your daily life, either watching TV or on the internet or reading. And just stay away from that kind of agonizing, endless hours trying to memorize academic word lists and memorizing the dictionary. And I promise you that this strategy will increase your vocabulary, and you'll feel far more comfortable and confident as you develop your English language ability and your vocabulary.